anybody lets me out looking like this. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm back learning Flair, and I'm calling these things. I decided Neff learns Flair and tells stories. So if I talk, then it puts my head in a different place. So it helps me catch things because I'm not sitting there thinking about it. So I'm gonna tell stories, and I'm gonna learn how to flip all these things and do my Flair and drop shit. You think I'd be better at it by now? We have the rules of the house now. Drops are okay. We saw this one ad nauseum. Just you're gonna have to know that I've been practicing. I practice all the time. Today I think I'm gonna start with bottles too. Bottles like tins are flippable. So I was a terrible young bartender because everything I could get my hands on, in a grocery store, in a bar, in a house, on the street, whatever, I would flip it. So and you can do halves and spray booze everywhere. I feel like something's gonna break because I do have mats on the floor, but they're not mats everywhere. Ultimately, this is going to be some kind of like double spin thing where you go like that and then flip the bottle over, or the shaker over. Just the basic movements are easy just because we've all done them so many times. Oh shit. I know how to do it. I just have to stop thinking about it. So there's that. Not a southpaw. I think this is going to be really good for me. So in New York, there's a bar called Angel Share, and it's the granddaddy of them all, right? I mean, it was the speakeasy before there were really like brand new speakeasies. You go up the stairs and you go into what is in essence like a Japanese cafeteria. And if you walk through, all the way across the room, there's a door, unmarked. There's just a little plaque next to it, and it says something like, "No groups of more than 4. No loud talking," something like seating only, meaning like no standing. First time I ever went in there, it was so bizarre because they didn't have machine ice. They just had this big block of ice. So when you wanted a cocktail, and I probably had a Manhattan because in those days I was a big fan of the Manhattan. So what you're supposed to do is like that and then flip. Oh. So yeah, a touch is as good as a catch. So say the jugglers. I'm gonna go over my arm. So anyway, I go into this bar and they didn't have ice. They just had this big block of dead clear ice. And, everyone's seated and quiet. There's this really bizarre mural on the wall of this kind of Japanese baby dressed up like a demon cherub. And it was awesome. Even though, as a bartender at the time, I was looking around going like, how do you guys make any money? Like, we were so, even if we were making cocktails, we were so based on volume. And it was the first place that it was one. Okay, I still have to practice. Sorry, Brooklyn Gin. This is gonna get ugly. It's one of the first places I ever saw that had so many rules, and the ice thing just it was the one thing that stuck out of my head because it was so. It seems so inefficient. Wait, you have to chip off ice for every drink? Ultimately, you're going like that and swinging it around, and then boom, and then like that. So fun. Let's not jump ahead. So anyway, it became kind of a secret little spot. So when people came to visit me in town, I would always try to take them there. This is before the big cocktail boom. So fast forward years later, and Milk and Honey opens, and then all these other kind of cocktail bars open, and there was a few of us who looked at that and were just like, well, that's just what Angel Share is doing. So it's kind of an unsung hero. At least it was in the kind of back in the day, because there was a couple places that kind of looked around when all the cocktail thing started and said, like, welcome, like we've been here this whole time. And they were definitely, they had every single trick they had was kind of cribbed by a lot of these other people because, whether they knew it or not, I'm not suggesting that, people stole their rules or something, but when you went into places that wouldn't let a lot of people in, that you couldn't be standing, you had to be seated, they had ice that they chipped off that took 40 minutes to make a cocktail, like the whole thing had already kind of been in New York at the time. Okay, let's see if we can put these two things together. There's a bar scene at the time, there's a cocktail scene. We're pretty proud of it, and we were super activist in it. and they used to do these things called cocktail jams, which are actually a lot of fun. But it was a way for a lot of bartenders who made cocktails who couldn't work together to come and work together just for a shift. So you'd go to bar X and they would put out all these ingredients. There'd be herbs and different liqueurs and different syrups and just all this stuff out. And you would sign up for a shift, and the shift was usually like 15 minutes. And you get to go behind that bar, so you get to go to some fancy famous bar, and you get to get behind it, and you get to make cocktails for a bunch of people, most of whom are bartenders anyway, and you get to show them what you got. So we hosted a cocktail jam, and there's a guy named Tetsuo who was the bar manager at Angel Share. I thought that was great because I'd always loved it. Straight over the show. See, if you don't think about it, I didn't know it would be so painful to learn this trick. So we hosted this cocktail jam, and Tetsuo shows up, and he's a super nice guy. Super nice guy, and great bartender. Been doing it for a long time or whatever. But we had Boston shakers, so it was this, and it's a testament to the world we live in that I don't even have a mixing glass on the bar right now. But it was glass on tin, so it was this, and then a mixing glass you put on top, and then you would shake it, and then it would get this really tight seal. Kind of like it does now when you put tin on tin, but it's stronger usually, and you could see where the wash line was because it would be frosty down here, then not up there, and then you would hit it like against your palm, and then it would not crack like glass. Get to work, and then you would open it and then serve your cocktail. So anyway, Tetsuo shows up and he makes his cocktail, but he looks at the Boston setup and he doesn't know what to do with it because even though all the years of Angel Share being open, they'd only had cobbler shakers, which is the kind of one piece with the lid on top of it, and then the built-in strainer thing where you take the top off. So he didn't know how to use it, and I could see that something was going on with him because he was being very kind of reluctant to kind of go behind the bar for a shift, and so he spoke English, but it was definitely very accented, and we didn't know each other super well, so I didn't want to embarrass him. But I did finally kind of suss out that he didn't know how to use the tools, and I didn't have a cobbler shaker. I show him how to use it, and he was fascinated. And after his shift was over, he made... Okay, so let's put these together now. So how am I supposed to do it? So it's here, and then here, and then here, and then here. Okay. And practiced over and over and over and over again. So I had a little ice next to him, and you would put ice in there. You would put the mixing glass on top, and you push it down, and then just and then dump the ice, fill it up. He did that for almost 3 hours. He did that for a long time. And at first, watching him was kind of interesting because he was so into it. And after a while, he did it so long that it became, at least for me, very inspiring because he was not going to stop until he got it in his body. And he was so focused. I mean, imagine being someone who knows so much and finds something they don't know in what they know so well. So, like, for example, me, almost 30 years into this gig, doing this move. And so I feel like that day, he taught me way more than I taught him because I just taught him how to open a shaker. But I always remembered that there are certain things about learning parts of it. I got 2 hands full. This is going to be unwieldy. This is well in line with that kind of mastery of the body thing that I've been talking about because I need this to get into my hands, and Tetsuo is the one who showed me in a very direct way what that looks like. We learn how we learn. There are many people who don't know fuck all about cocktails, but they can do this, and I don't see why we can't have both. I'm getting closer to... Ooh. The second I start bragging is the second I drop something. Another lesson. That's a deep life lesson, actually. So yeah. So I learned a lot from Tetsuo that day, and it's not like we invented learning, but it was a good reminder, and it's something that I try to remember even now, because this was years and years ago. I try to remember that is that there are things that you get from focus practice. Oh, that would have been a disaster. The things that you get from focus practice that just take time to learn. Right. I'm supposed to be doing these together. My hands don't want to think this way. I imagine if there were a pour spout on this thing and there were liquid in it, it would both feel different and spray shit everywhere. Because I think eventually it's going to go like... Anyway, I don't know what Tetsuo is doing now. I mean, I know he's doing something. I haven't seen Tetsuo in a long time. And I don't know if I've ever actually told him that story, but I'm telling you guys. So if you see him, tell him I said hi, and tell him that I do think about him from time to time. Ow! Tell him I do think about him from time to time because he is one of the many people that have inspired me in this business over the years, and I'm lucky that I get to know them. How do I do it again? Am I getting better? I don't think so. I will tell you guys this. I'm going to do this every day, at least as long as I can. As long as I have tins, I suppose. But telling the stories has actually been helpful, so I want to thank you for listening. I know this doesn't feel like a masterclass, but it does to me, because learning is teaching. The whole point of this series, and the whole point of these is not to put me out as some kind of authority, though, I mean, whatever. But is to get everyone to start having conversations that we all have, we just don't have them together. So I'm gonna take the hit on this one, and I'm the one who's gonna learn how to do some stuff I don't know how to do. It's not just that it's dropping knowledge, it's taken things like I learned from Tetsuo over the years and from so many other people and just presenting it so everyone else can know them too. Because the knowledge in my head is not my own. It also belongs to all the people who gave it to me. So the least I can do is try to give it to other people. So this one is for Tetsuo, because he didn't teach me how to do Flair, but he taught me that he taught me other stuff. If you see him, tell him I said hi. But please, go check out the podcast. The Cottonmouth Club Presents, which is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can go to our website, which is cottonmouthhouston.com, and you can see all the episodes there. It's getting closer together. That's not bad. When I start thinking about it too much, I screw it up. What did I say yesterday? Well, that's enough showing off for one day. I appreciate you guys. So many things to practice now. I appreciate you guys watching. Please listen to the podcast, because we have one on right now with Julian Cox, and he talks about training, and he drops a lot of knowledge and wisdom. So check out the podcast. Subscribe to the videos if you like. Tell me if there's something you want to talk about, because honestly, I'm going to just tell stories, and if there's a story you want to hear, then I will see if I know it. And if I do know it, then I'll tell you. Be good. I'm going to try without looking. I looked. Something broke. Why on earth do we have candy canes? It's getting there. That's enough showing off for one day. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.